Becoming sin's monster. Proverbs 1, verses 11 through 14. Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, even whole as those who go down to the pit. We will find all kinds of precious wealth. We will fill our houses with spoil. Throw in your lot with us. We shall have one purse. If we indulge sin, we become sin's monster. These verses describe somebody slave to sin's grip, someone who has been reduced to a monster lying in wait for what is good in the world in order to destroy it. No longer can the sinner find the light of God within themselves. Instead, they have to try to steal it from others. But that light is forever vanishing because sin only pays one currency: death. Do not be enticed by the easy currency of sinners, because its dark tokens only lead one place. Those allowed into paradise. Proverbs 2, verses 21 through 22. For the upright will live in the land, and the blameless will remain in it, but the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be uprooted from it. Paradise, by definition, must be perfect. If it allows in anything less, it is no longer perfect, because it now contains a flaw. That is why only God can remain in paradise, because he is the only thing in all of existence that is without flaw. But where does that leave humanity? Are we destined to burn and die in the fires of our own sin and destruction? Thankfully, God has provided a solution for us. Through the blood of his Son, Jesus Christ, which was shed on our behalf, we can be covered by his perfection and allowed to enter into paradise. Acknowledge God. Proverbs 3, verse 6. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. As Christians, we need to acknowledge God in everything that we do. We are under God's authority and protection. Anything that we accomplish is in his name and under his protection. If we begin to take credit for something that God has done through us, it insults the one that we owe our success to. Only when we are humble will God continue to guide and clear our path. If we start taking credit and think that what we did was all by ourselves, God will withdraw his protection and guidance and leave us with our choice, saying that if you want the credit, then fine. Just don't think I'm going to clear the way for you. So acknowledge God in all of your ways, and don't confuse what he can do for what you can do. Guard your heart. Proverbs 4, verse 23. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. We must never forget the necessity of guarding our heart. The heart is the driving force of our internal nature. What captures the attention of our heart is what we pour our life into, and it affects how we treat others. That is why it is so important to guard what has access to the deepest part of ourselves, because if our nature becomes corrupted, we will be bound up in sin's chains and never be free. That is why it is so important to keep our hearts focused on Jesus, so that we can allow him to enter our hearts and change us into better people, and allow him to serve as a shield to guard our inner nature from the fiery daggers of sin. Before the eyes of the Lord. Proverbs 5, verse 21. For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he watches all of his paths. Too often we forget in our daily lives that every action we take and every thought we think is within the view of the Lord. Often, especially as we indulge in sin, we think that we can somehow hide it from the Lord. But that notion is nothing more than a fantasy that we conjure so that we can indulge our sinful desires and forget that our actions are being carefully watched, and that someday we will be confronted with them. So, if you're tempted to indulge in sin, say to yourself, is this really something that I want to be confronted with when I stand before God? A lump of bread. Proverbs 6, verse 26. For on account of a harlot, one is reduced to a loaf of bread, and an adulteress hunts for the precious life. Seeking after the pleasures of the flesh is something that everyone will have to struggle with. The desire to indulge in the most intimate and powerful act of creation that we humans are capable of can at times be overpowering. But because it is so powerful, it also makes it a source of great weakness. Those who use sex solely for a source of pleasure end up consumed by the endless need to indulge the desire. They begin to use others to satiate the insatiable, consuming those people and then abandoning them. Don't get caught in this web, because you will only be used. You'll be a product to be consumed as your sacred power is devoured by sin's insatiable desire. Eagerly returning to sin. Proverbs 7 verse 14. I was due to offer peace offerings. Today I have paid my vows. Be wary of those that immediately return to their sin. The woman in this proverb says that she just got done offering a peace offering as she attempts to entice a young man to sleep with her. A peace offering is one of the offerings that the Jewish people offer to God. Uniquely, this offering is eaten by the participants after God has been given his portion. This offering is a sacred meal usually done as a family as a means of thanking God and giving him praise. And this woman, having just left this covenant meal with her family and perhaps seeing off her husband as he departs on his journey, turns around and immediately spits in the face of everything she has just honored. A word of wisdom: depart from those who eagerly return to their sin, for the path they walk on is death. Respect the Lord. Proverbs 8 verse 13. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogance and the evil way, and the perverted mouth I hate. As Christians, we need to remember that what it means to respect the Lord. Too often we tolerate evil in the world around us and accept it as okay. We begin to conform to what the world would have us believe is okay and what society thinks is right and wrong. But we must remember it is God and his opinion that we must honor and fear, not the world's. If we are to respect the Lord, then we need to remember that we are to hate evil in the world we see around us and strive not to participate in it. Because how are you to truly love and respect somebody if you indulge in the things that they hate? God is the source of all wisdom. Proverbs 9 verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. I want to slow down and take time to truly appreciate what this verse is saying. To fear the Lord means that we are to respect and honor the Lord, and it is through this respect and honor that we begin to walk down the path of wisdom towards the source of all knowledge and understanding. And as we get closer to the source, we begin to get a mere glimpse of who he is. This glimpse is a revelation that cannot be achieved through human ingenuity and force of thought. It must be given by the source of all knowledge itself, because knowledge and truth is something that is outside us and that we inculcate into ourselves, not something that originates within us. What are we owed? Proverbs 10 verse 16. The wages of the righteous is life, the income of wicked, punishment. It is interesting what happens when we take a deeper look into the words the Bible chooses to use, especially in the original Hebrew. In Hebrew, the word for wage has the connotation of work, something that deserves compensation, and the word for income has the connotation of gain. If we apply this understanding to this verse, we see that those who work righteously, the wages that they are owed is life. A life deeper and more closely connected with the source of all life itself, God. But to those that are wicked, the only thing that they can gain for themselves is punishment, because the temporary pleasures of wickedness will pass away, and all that will be left is the punishments their actions gain for them. Do not trust in the riches of this world. Proverbs 11 verse 28. He who trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like the green leaf. This proverb is a great reminder not to trust in the riches of this world, because the world is only temporary, and one day it will pass away. The riches of this fickle world can disappear in a moment and are of no eternal value. But those that are made righteous by being covered by the blood of Christ, and allowing the Holy Spirit to guide their actions towards righteousness will flourish with everlasting life. Verse 28 says that the righteous will flourish like a green leaf, which in Hebrew, green leaf also has the connotation of branch. Christ said that those who believe in him are the branches and he is the vine. By believing and following him diligently, we will flourish in his eternal kingdom. The righteous is a guide to his neighbor. Proverbs 12, verse 17. The righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. It is important to remember that what we do inspires others around us, particularly for Christians who are supposed to be ambassadors of God's kingdom to the world. It is important that our actions reflect who we are representing. When we act righteously, it inspires others around us to rise out of the pettiness of the world and improve their behavior. It is the righteous action that keeps our world from devolving into chaos. That all changes when wickedness is indulged. When people begin to act wickedly, it brings out the worst in others as they begin to feel slighted, which tempts them to begin lashing out themselves. Wickedness only breeds more wickedness, and when the entire society goes down this path, it never ends well. We are all guides to our neighbors. Be a good one. The company we keep. Proverbs 13, verse 20. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Humans are social creatures, which means that we are heavily influenced by the people around us. It is often said that we are the product of the 5 people that we keep around us, because those who are closest to us are capable of exerting influence in how we think and feel. That is why it is so important to ensure that we keep wise and understanding people around us, so that we are ever drawn upwards by their example. However, if we choose to stay friends with fools and those who do dark and immoral things, we too will be dragged into their wickedness. And not only will we probably end up hurting others, but we will end up hurting ourselves by being the product of our own foolishness. Avoiding the minefield. Proverbs 14, verse 27. The fear of the Lord is the fountain of life, that one may avoid the snares of death. The deadly snares of this world are often invisible to us, and the enemy does a fantastic job of distracting us from seeing their pitfalls. However, there is one who can see all things, one who can see the minefield that Satan has laid out before us and guide us through it. To fear the Lord means not only to be afraid of his incomprehensible power, but to treat him with reverence and respect, and to give him the worship that he so rightly deserves. By fearing him and allowing him to guide our lives, he can lead us through the minefield and help us to lead a life full of his blessings and not the curses of the enemy. Because like Balaam found out in Numbers, the enemy cannot curse what God has blessed. Seek knowledge, not foolishness. Proverbs 15, verse 14. The mind of the intelligent seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds on folly. There are 2 kinds of people in this world: those who continually try to grow and are continually seeking for more knowledge and wisdom, and those who are content to remain ignorant and dwell among others who perpetuate their own foolishness as they continually talk each other into one foolish thing after another. To seek knowledge is more, however, than just seeking out facts. It's about seeking out wisdom and a desire to learn and grow. Those who continually self-improve, deepening their relationship with the source of all wisdom and knowledge, will grow and shine as a beacon of light. But the folly of the foolish will lead to nothing but waste and excess, the flame of their light smothered by their own stupidity. Guard your spirit. Proverbs 16, verse 32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures a city. Self-control is key in so many areas of life, because it is often when we lash out or act in haste that we make the worst decisions. Somebody who has accomplished a lot in their life and has earned the respect of others may burn it all in one outburst of anger. One overreaction is enough to put a permanent stain on their reputation that will take a long time to wash out. The same thing is true for not having control over one's spirit. How many great leaders in the past have been brought down by their own stupid desires? So make sure that you are the one who rules over your spirit, because if you don't, temptation will sneak in and destroy you. A joyful heart versus a broken spirit. Proverbs 17 verse 22. A joyful heart is a good medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. How we feel internally affects just about everything we do, and it affects those around us. Those with a joyful heart will be a wellspring of renewal in life, continually regenerating themselves and shining their light into the world. This light that they produce lifts the spirits and burns away the darkness of those trapped in their own chains of darkness. This is why a broken spirit is so deadly, because it sucks all the life out of everything around it. Those with a broken spirit will continually sabotage everything that is good in their lives and shroud their lives in darkness until all the life that they once had is gone. And when all of their light is gone, they will go to others and extinguish it from them. So I implore you, do what you can to have a joyful heart. Friends. Proverbs 18 verse 24. A man of too many friends comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. We must be careful who we allow into our lives, especially at the level of a friend. Friends are important, and it is crucial that we have people to stand beside us. But friends enjoy a level of intimacy and connection that strangers don't. This intimacy and connection requires time and effort. Somebody that has too many friends is spread too thin and ends up with shallow connections and lack of strong bonds of fellowship to any of them. They are too busy trying to make everybody happy that they make nobody happy. However, even though it is possible to spread yourself too thin, there is a friend that will stick with you through thick and thin. Seek that friend, because we always need somebody to have our backs. Finding the right partner. Proverbs 19 verse 14. House and wealth are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. When it comes to finding a partner, it is important that we allow God to choose who we spend our lives with. Our partner is somebody who will have the most intimate access to us. However, it's more than just physical intimacy. They will also have mental and emotional intimacy with us as well. Finding a good partner is not something that you can just be given. Worldly resources can be given to us by others, but you can't just be given a good partner. A good partner is somebody that has to be found, and it is only the Lord who can truly guide us to the right person. So let the Lord guide you, because a life partner is not something that you want to be mistaken about. The Lord guides our steps. Proverbs 20 verse 24. Man's steps are ordained by the Lord. How then can man understand his way? In a world as complicated and messy as ours, it is virtually impossible for us to correctly see our way through. Something unexpected will crop up and throw us off course, and the plan we thought we had will lie in pieces at our feet. That is why it is important to let God guide our steps, because He is the only one that can guide us through life successfully. The Lord sees all, and what we see as unexpected pitfalls are to Him known and part of His plan. If the Lord is guiding our way, then we can be sure that if we seem to stumble into one of these traps, then it is for a reason, and God wants us to learn something, because God guides the steps of the righteous and will not lead them astray. The heart of sacrifice. Proverbs 21 verse 3. To do righteousness and justice is desired by the Lord more than sacrifice. God's character is fundamental to our relationship with Him. This verse demonstrates an essential aspect of that character by showing us what God truly values. God would rather that we act righteously and justly than offer sacrifices to Him with an evil or falsehood in our hearts. Sacrifices aren't something that God wants for the sake of it. He doesn't need our material possessions, because as the creator of it all belongs to Him anyway. Sacrifices are a way for us to show our gratitude and obedience to Him. However, sacrifices offered in rebellion to Him or in a state of reluctance are worthless, because they are a denial of what God truly wants, our hearts. Do not offer sacrifices to God unless you mean it. God does not want your vanity. Coming into alignment. Proverbs 22, verse 15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of discipline will remove it far from him. As children grow, they learn to align themselves and their bodies with the world around them, and hopefully at one point they learn to come into a alignment in relationship with God. This process of alignment is a continual process throughout our entire lives, but particularly in childhood, parents are necessary to help correct the child when they are out of alignment. If these foolish desires are overindulged, it can lead the child into amounting to nothing more than a collection of their worst traits. It's the parent's job to discipline the child and help them as they attempt to amount to more than they currently are. A parent that does not discipline their child does it no favors in the long run. Parents, discipline your children and help them become more than what they currently are. Abandoning the ancient pillars. Proverbs 23, verse 10. Do not remove the ancient boundary or go into the fields of the fatherless. The Christian ethic has been at the core of the Western worldview since perhaps its very inception. The ideals and morals that the West holds are by no means self-evident through pure rationality. Data cannot interpret data. Instead, it must be interpreted through a framework to give that data meaning. The only framework that has borne the test of time is the one given to us by God, and that is the one that the Western ethic is founded on. Even if there have been significant missteps and atrocities committed by those claiming to hold this view. But we now live in a time where that ethic is being abandoned and forgotten. To all of us living in the West, how long will our society survive as we continue to chip away at the pillars that held it up? Don't be envious. Proverbs 24, verse 19. Do not fret because of evildoers, or be envious of the wicked. When we look at the other people around us, it can sometimes be difficult not to be envious of what other people have. We can see the opulence of the ultra-rich and perhaps wish that we had that type of wealth. However, it's important to remember that this level of wealth is attained at a price. Sometimes it's a sacrifice of their relationship with the people around them and their family for the sake of their goal, but it isn't always the case. A single-minded goal can become all-consuming, and sometimes immoral actions might be required for the sake of that goal. So don't become too envious of the wealth and power of those with the most worldly power. What was required to get it might not be worth it. Guard your spirit. Proverbs 25, verse 28. Like a city that is broken into and without walls is a man who has no control over his spirit. Evil is all around us. Every day the enemy is trying to undermine us and our relationship with God. Whether that be by direct spiritual attack or through the general chaos of this sinful world. The walls of a city are designed to keep attackers out and ensure that those within the city are safe. However, if those walls are broken down, the enemy comes rushing in and destroys everything in its path. The same thing happens to those who do not guard the walls around their spirit. The enemy will seize on the first opportunity it can to slip inside your defenses, and once it has a foothold, it will aim to devour everything. So guard your spirit like your eternity depends on it, because it just might. Whispered words. Proverbs 26, verse 22. The words of a whisperer are like dainty morsels, and they will go down into the innermost parts of the body. Be careful of those who complain about others behind their back, especially those who attempt to keep their actions secret. Whispered words have a way of slipping into our hearts in a way that conversation spoken more publicly doesn't. They are more intimate because they are words that cannot be overheard and are intended for us only. This intimacy and access that whispered words have can be a good thing. Like, for example, a whispered conversation between partners in a bed, perhaps. However, this intimacy and access can be tainted by evil. The words tainted by this evil intent have the same level of access to our hearts. Do not hang around those who would poison this intimacy with whispered words, because this poison will eventually corrupt you as well. Look out for evil. Proverbs 27, verse 12. A prudent man sees evil and hides himself. The naive proceed and pay the penalty. There is a lot of evil in the world, and on our path through life, a great deal of it might come hurtling towards us. That is why it is important for us to pay attention to what is on the path ahead of us. Sometimes the world will throw evil temptations at us, and it is at those times that we need to hide and take shelter in the Lord. Because if we end up walking blindly into these evils, too often we'll end up getting consumed by them and emerge broken and damaged by our encounter. So if you see evil coming towards you, take shelter in the Lord. Because if you walk blindly into it, you will not emerge from that tangle unscathed. Follow God, not your heart. Proverbs 28, verse 26. He who trusts in his own heart is a fool, but he who walks wisely will be delivered. As we walk through life, we have two choices as to whose lead we are going to follow. We can follow our heart, or we can follow God. But let's remember something that was said by Jeremiah in Jeremiah 17, verse 9. The heart is deceitful above all things and is desperately wicked. Our heart will always pursue what it wants over what is right. It is eternally chasing the next thing that catches its attention, leading us further away from the path of righteousness into the snares of the enemy. It is only by following God that we can manage to work our way through the world and remain on the right path, because God is the only one who can navigate through this sinful world without being ensnared by the enemy. Fear no man. Proverbs 29, verse 25. The fear of man brings a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted. Evil men can wield their power in terrifying ways. The words of some of the most evil men on the earth has resulted in the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. At first glance, it seems rational to fear people who wield this much power. Who would want to confront someone who, on the mere whim, could take away everything, including your life? But that is the key to their power. They are counting on you to be afraid of them, because that is how they control you. Once you are free from that fear, however, and realize that as long as you are in the Lord, nothing can harm you in the long run, you are free to act. You become a servant of God's will, not man's. Insatiable desire. Proverbs 30, verses 15 through 16. The leech has two daughters, give and give. There are three things that will not be satisfied, four that will not say enough. Sheol, the barren womb, the earth that is never satisfied with water, and fire that never says enough. The thing about insatiable desire is that it is just that, insatiable. And that is why they are so dangerous, because they will consume everything in sight, and even that will never be enough. We must be careful if we find ourselves being consumed by an insatiable desire, and remember to seek God, because He is the only one who can heal our hearts and keep us from destroying everything for the sake of our desire. Don't face the all-consuming alone. It is, by its nature, impossible to resist. A worthy partner. Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 11. An excellent wife who can find, for her worth is far above jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her. It is imperative that we all find a partner that we can trust. Somebody who will stay at our side through anything, because there will always come a time when we will need help to get up and face the challenges that life throws at us. If you can find that partner, then they are worth more than any worldly treasure. Worldly treasure won't be there for you when you need them most and will vanish at the first opportunity. Instead, seek the one treasure that you can place your complete trust in and have complete faith that they will always be by your side, not the earthly object that is as worthless as the dust it was made from.